Welcome back to Switched to Linux. Well, today we're going to have a look at the Linux Mint 21.1. And wow, I can say Linux Mint never ceases to surprise me. It's not a form of bias. I just get impressed every single time I get in there and start looking at it. It is really good and it is really nice. And this new one, they just have a few small, subtle changes. And we're going to go ahead and get into what these look like. We're going to boot into the desktop itself and poke around. Of course, the installation is exactly the same as it's been. Very simple. You can choose the media codecs or not, choose your basic defaults or not. Nothing has changed in the installer, so we're not going to cover that. We'll go ahead and look at what is new. And so, of course, all of the betas have dropped. We're just going to look at the Cinnamon one today. So, Linux Mint 21.1 Vera. If anyone's playing some Pink Floyd in the background. Vera, Vera. All right. So, this is a long-term support release, which will be supported until 2027. Comes with updated software, brings refinements and many new features to your desktop, even more comfortable to use. I gotta say, man, I'm kind of impressed by what we're going to see here. Not perfect, and I found a few little oddities, but we'll get into it. So, of course, we did a look at the changes to Cinnamon itself a couple weeks ago. So we'll go ahead and refer to that, and just go ahead and have a look at the release notes here and things. So overview of the features. I thought that's the article I was on. I think that's the article here. All right. We have new features coming up next. All right. So this one here, so provide information about known issues and explanations, workarounds. So this is still the beta release. This is not fully released yet, but this is, I think this is actually a release candidate. I don't think it's beta. I think it's a release candidate. 2 gigabytes of RAM required. 4 is recommended. 20 gigabytes of disk space. 1027 768 resolution. And then, of course, beta might contain critical bugs. Only use it for testing purposes, of course. And then there's a place to issue any bug reports that you encounter. But what I've found typically with Linux Mint is there's very few bugs in these. I'm sure there's a couple out there for some of the more deep ones. And then, of course, this is linked from the blog. So if you want to download it, there's all the download links. New features. So the look and the feel was given a whole new feel. And this, yeah, they did make some of the colors more vibrant. So you can see the color options here. They also changed the default. The default is no longer green. This is the new look. So, of course, this is the green. So it does appear that the blue is intended to be the default color here. So you can see what it looks like now. They have the nice new icons there. You can, of course, select the light or the dark mode, and you can choose between your new vibrant colors there. And they do have the legacy options. In the event you want to go back to the way it was, you do have the legacy options in there. They do talk here about the new mouse pointer. So this is the typical mouse pointer that you see. And then we have, these are the things that you'll see inside of there. I think these are the ones available to you. And the weight window is nice and colorful. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Mac weight cursor, although it has a little bit different look and feel. In addition to these, we have some other themes installed by default: Breeze, Papyrus, Numix, and Yara. So we have some extra theming in addition to the typical Mint themes. And driver manager, so this is typical. So driver manager now runs in user mode, so you do not need a password to launch it. Offline support was redesigned. So if you are offline, you can do driver management with USB sticks. And different screen if it detects live USB stick or DVDs. Full Flatpak integration. This is one of the new ones we talked about previously with Cinnamon. Now your Flatpaks are available inside of your main update systems. And then, of course, you can still improve them. So the software manager features refresh user interface, makes it easier to distinguish between Flatpaks and system packages. Of course, the old way, there was one section specifically for Flatpaks down at the bottom. But it was kind of hard to tell what it was there. But you can see here, you can now pull down whether you want the repository or the Flatpak version. There is a new ISO verification tool. So it's important to verify the integrity and authenticity of your ISO images. So you want to go ahead and use your verifying options in there. This is not something I looked at yet. So we'll have a look, see if I can actually look into that or not. And then there is the stick formatter to verify it. If you try to write a Windows image, it no longer fails. It redirects you to this. Of course, the problem with Windows is that the image you need for Windows is too big for the file type size on the drive. You need to do separate partitioning. And so if you're trying to do a Windows drive, you are going to have to use some extra steps. We already talked about the cinnamon in the separate videos, so we're not going to spend a lot of time over here. Of course, the biggest highlights, they do have the corner bar. They do have the in the far right corner, just like Windows put in a while back. You can minimize all windows, show the desktop without having to manually move an icon over there. That's totally awesome now. Visual changes of the folders. They're no longer highlighting the folders. And then here is a new display settings in the context menu. So there's a lot of other tiny little things inside of here, but I think we've droned on far enough about these little odds and ends. So let's go ahead and have a look at what this guy actually looks like. All right, so we've landed ourselves on the desktop. Let's go ahead and get logged in here. And now we can see that we are here on the desktop. And here is our welcome screen. Not much has changed in the welcome screen. Of course, our default you can see is now this blue color. Let's pull up the folders here just to give you guys a look what that looks like. So there's what this is going to look like inside the new folders. Of course, I can choose my different accent colors as well. And we can go light mode or we can go dark mode. For the purpose of the video here, I'm going to keep it on light mode. Now, again, if you go down to the lower corner down here, you'll see that you have the little bar down here, which allows you, it'll show the desktop by minimizing all of the windows. So that is exactly what I've always done is I've taken the show desktop, which is not on the panel over here any longer. I've always taken the shown desktop and I've moved it over there, one of the first things I've ever done. I don't have to do that anymore. We have the nice panel. There is a problem, though, that if you select the traditional panel layout, you'll see it goes back to the old style. You'll see that we have our show desktop icon is put back over here by the menu. So you're going to want to run with the modern style if you do want to take advantage of that. Of course, this raises the problem that I personally hate pinning icons to the taskbar. And I absolutely abhor the idea of pinning icons to the taskbar. Clicking this, it opens. Click it again, it minimizes. I completely hate that. I want launchers over here. And with the launchers over here, that's going to enable me to click it, and I open up a new instance each time I click it. That's exactly the way I want it. You can still set that up. You just need to go ahead and, not panel settings, you need to go ahead and add applets, and you just need to find your launchers down here. Your panel launchers, you can drop your panel launchers over here and go ahead and set up your panel the way that you want that. Just unpin all these guys. I have a separate video about how to do that, so I'm not going to spend all the time doing it. The process is the same. I did find, however, that up here, when you go and find an application and right-click it and you hit Add to Panel, the default, I can't tell exactly what the default has been supposed to be over the last few things. I did just test my Arch system, which also runs an updated version of Cinnamon. When I add the panel, it actually adds those to my launchers, not pinning to the panel. This format, no matter how I have it set up, always seems to add this to the panel as a pinned icon. And adding launchers has been made a little bit more difficult. So if you are using the launcher method like I do, you actually will have to add the launchers manually. So we'll go ahead, let's go ahead and talk about how to do that really briefly, just because it's something that I personally like, and you guys might like it too. I don't know. Maybe I'm just, getting grumpy and old. Of course, here it's going to throw my launchers on over here. I'm going to edit the panel mode. I'm going to drag these guys over here, and I'm going to proceed to unpin all of these guys. So let's go ahead and turn that off. And I'm going to unpin all of these because I hate pinning functions. See, I want to be able to click this, and every time I click it, I want it to open up its own separate instance. Of course, the other things that I like to do is go into panel edit mode. Okay, I lied. I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys how to do this. All right. I do not group them by window, and under panel, I will show the application name. And now we have a separate instance showing up each time that we boot something up. So you can see that now I have my windows over here. I can rearrange them as I like. And we are now running launchers instead of pinned items. Now, this is where we ran into the problem where if I add something to a panel, is it adding in the launcher or is it adding? I guess maybe it is. Maybe it is adding the launchers now. Maybe it was not. Let's see. Oh, nope. See, it's pinning to the panel, which is kind of annoying. So what you are going to need to do is anytime you want to add a new launcher, you're going to have to manually add the new launcher. So the format for these, you need to call the application space %, and then a capital U, and then you're going to have to find something. So if I want to add a new launcher, let's say we're going to add the paint application, right? I'm going to do, and hopefully the name is paint space %U. That's not the correct name, and I can tell because I do not have a check mark there. So the application, okay, it's drawing, I think it's called. Let's try that. So this is something that they did make a little bit more complicated. Click on the icon over here, just type drawing. Let's see if I can get that, select that, and then drawing application. Let's go ahead and fix this name up here. I have not found a, we're going to say no in the menu because it's already in the menu. So I've not found an easier way to add launchers than that. But maybe there is, and I'm just missing something. But now we have a launcher. So we'll go ahead and do that. Of course, I can remove it like that. All right, so that's kind of the downside that I have found inside of the system, that I'm not able to do it the old way. And if you notice where the cursor is, you'll see that brief animation. That's a new animation. I really like it. It looks pretty cool. All right, so the kernel, they are shipping with a little bit older of a kernel, 5.15. Linux Mint has traditionally shipped with an older kernel because it gives them a better hardware compatibility. There are some concerns with using a more modern kernel. And so that's one of the things that they've always shipped with a little bit lower kernel, gives a little bit better support. Of course, the biggest problem that we have with that is that if you are using brand new hardware, you do need to have the newer kernels. And so when the update manager is done checking for Flatpak updates, I'll go ahead and show you how to change the kernel. In the meantime, let's go ahead and have a look at what else is installed. So again, it just feels like a good operating system. They have all the different tools and functions that you might need inside of an application: document scanners, drawing, pictures. We have Firefox, Hex Chat, Thunderbird, transmission. We have the web apps, basically the old ICE applications. Under our Office, we have calendar, library. We have the full LibreOffice suite, including the databases. That might, for some people, be a little overkill, but it's an option. We have celluloid. We have the H word, which we can't mention because we actually got a community strike for talking about perfectly fine and legal uses of this application. So I did find out, by the way, that's why my chapters on my videos don't work. Active community strikes. And then we have Rhythm Box. Administration, we have a backup tools, driver managers, login windows, system monitor, which we'll pull that up and see what it's doing. This, by the way, the update manager, it always takes longer the very first time it's run. So it does not always take that long. It's just that this is the very first time I've run the update manager. I should have run it before I did the video, but I didn't. All right, and then here's your preferences, which of course you can get to pretty much all of your preferences with your system settings. Nothing else has changed inside of there. And as far as our resources here, we are running 1.2 gigs of memory, even with the update manager running in the background. And you can see what our processors are doing here. So it's running fairly nicely. All right, processing updates still. All right. Well, we'll give that a few minutes to do its thing. Let me go ahead and pull up the software manager. That also takes a few minutes. All right, so now we do have a few updates to work with. We're not going to work with any of these. Now, I don't have any flat packs installed, so they will not be here in this list, but they would be under this type option over here. So you can see this type option is a software update. This type option is a security update, and then flat packs are going to be like a cube. All right. Now, if you want to change your kernels under View Kernels, you can have a look over here, and you can see here's our kernels, and we do have some other ones there, and it looks as though right now I don't have any extra kernels I can add. This might be because it is a beta. I have never come into here and not had the option to grab more kernels. There is actually a way to probe for more kernels, and also maybe if we just run an update, it would find some more of those. But inside that kernels is where you can do that. So over here, here's flat pack specific. This is going to be the icon for any flat pack updates. And let's just go ahead and do my search for Kdenlive. Of course, if I can spell Kdenlive, which is generally my software test. So we can see now that we have a repository package with the Linux Mint icon. We have a flat pack icon for the FlatHub version. Let's see what the version differences are on these. This is running version 22.12.0, and the repository version is 21.12.3. So the Flatpak is going to be newer than the repository version, and that's typical. Also, you can come in over here and pull this menu down if you want to switch and see what the differences are there. All right. So that is a brief look at Linux Mint. Considering the fact that they have a lot more, they've made the system feel a lot better, a lot more comfortable. They've certainly improved the colors, the theming, and things like this, adding some extra theme icons, and then just a few of these changes to Cinnamon. Hopefully these are going to resolve a few of the little issues with Cinnamon that we've seen pop up. I know on my Arch system running Cinnamon, I do have a few little odds and ends that I've just had some bugs with, and I don't know if it's because it's Arch or something wrong with a version of Cinnamon or something in between. I don't know. I'm going to run system updates here soon, providing I have enough bandwidth for the rest of the month, and then we'll kind of decide from there. Before we wrap this up, though, I did want to point out one more thing. By default now, we're not getting any icons on the desktop. They're not getting rid of the desktop's icons, but it looks as though they're removing them by default, except for mounted volumes are still there. Of course, here's your display settings, but if we go ahead down to Customize and Desktop Settings, we can turn on the various icons onto the desktop if we want. All right, so you can do that, and then, of course, you can sort items vertical, horizontal, by name, by size, by date. We can reverse sort, and I always turn off auto arrange personally. We do have smaller up to larger icons, and then these adjust the horizontal and the vertical spacing, or that causes the icons to dance, one of the two. All right, so this is the spacing of the icons. So you can go ahead and make all of those changes and adjustments as well. So that is my final take at Linux Mint 21. Of course, the final release will drop pretty soon. Of course, as I always recommend with a brand new release, there's always going to be a few little bugs in there. I never recommend, if your current system is running, I don't recommend that you just jump right to this if your current system is working without bugs. But if you want the newer features, if you want the latest software packages, you want the changes that it's going to give you, I would usually give it usually about a month or so before I jump to the brand new version. But again, being Linux Mint and having a really good track record, if I were to get a new computer and looking for an operating system, I would probably install the latest build in a heartbeat. Give it about another week or so, and this will probably be out. So that's been my look at Linux Mint 21.1 beta. Definitely a good operating system, and it looks like they've worked out a few of the little bugs, added some more vibrancy, and added a few more features that some people would probably like, and then kept the way to roll back to the older features for the people that do not want those. And these are the things that makes Linux Mint really stand out. They are, in Linux, one of those few that are still doing a lot of good desktop development. It's not like, some distributions are kind of static in what they're doing. These guys are they're still developing and bringing in a lot of good ideas to the experience. And, I'm probably going to upgrade to this on one of my laptops just to give it a test, and then we'll start rolling it out to some other ones sometime soon. With that, though, guys, thanks for watching. Have a look over at the support links in the description of the video, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.